All right, this is for Algebra 1. This is from Lesson 16. And what I need to make sure you guys do is always have two equations. I want so much more than just an answer. So let me teach you how to write two equations. It says there are 8 coins made up of nickels and dimes. Okay, I don't know how many nickels I have, and I don't know how many dimes I have, but I know together I've got 8. So I can go ahead and write an equation from that. I'm going to let N stand for the number of nickels I've got, and I'm going to let D stand for the number of dimes I have. So look, this could be a 1 and this could be a 7, right? Because that adds up to 8. Or, you know, this could be a 7 and this could be a 1. Or a 3 and a 5. I almost said 3 and 4. Okay? But this is what your first equation is going to look like. It says the total value is 65 cents. Okay, well think about this. You have to be consistent, but think about it. A nickel is worth 5 cents. So I'm going to take 5 times N, because if I have 2 nickels, does everybody see that would be 10 cents, 5 times 2? You know, if I had 4 nickels, 5 times 4, I would get 20 cents. Okay? Now dimes are worth 10 cents. So I'm going to take 10 times however many dimes I have, and that's going to give me my total amount of money. Now notice I didn't use any decimals here when writing out my cents. So I'm not going to use any decimals here. I got to be consistent, so I'm just going to set that equal to 65. Okay? So here is your two equations. Notice there are 2 unknowns. I don't know this. I don't know the number of nickels, and I don't know the number of dimes. It's imperative that you do that. Now, you can solve this however you want, besides graphing. Don't solve it by graphing. You can either use the substitution method or you can use the addition method. I don't care. How about if we use the addition method? That's what, or I should say the elimination method. That's what this textbook calls it. So if this is a positive 10, I really wish this was a negative 10. Wouldn't that be nice? Because remember, if they're the same number but opposite in sign, that way when you add straight down, it would be eliminated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation right here and I'm going to multiply everything by negative 10. So I'm going to get negative 10n minus 10d, and that's going to be what? Negative 80. Notice when you multiply by a negative, it changed all the signs, and I multiplied everything by 10. And then I'm going to line this up right underneath it. This is exactly what we did last week. Okay, get out your little handy-dandy calculator, but notice these are eliminated. This is going to give me a negative 5n, and this is going to give me a negative 15. Okay, negative 80 plus 65, add those together. So you can see n is going to be 3, because you would divide both sides by negative 5. Okay, whatever's there. 2 negatives give you a positive. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So there you go. Now look at here. It says how many dimes are there? This is the n. So I know there's 3 nickels. If there's 3 nickels, then hopefully you can see that there has to be 5 dimes. And then number 3 says how many nickels are there? Well, we already found that. So you can either say, you know, there's 3 nickels, or you can say n equals 3. Okay, or you can say there are 3 nickels. I don't care how you write out your answer. Okay, let's try another one. All of these are going to be done the exact same way. Here I've got 25 coins, and I've got pennies and dimes. So we have to write 2 equations. So I don't know how many pennies there are, and I don't know how many dimes there are, but I know together I've got 25 coins. Your first equation is always going to look like that. Okay? Now think about it. A penny is only worth 1 cent, so I could write 1p if it makes you feel good. Dimes are worth 10 cents. Together, that total value is 88 cents. Now notice I didn't use decimals, so I'm not going to use decimals here. So I've got that right there. Now, this one, again, I'm going to use the elimination method because look, these are both the same sign. Not the same sign, the same number. There's a 1 here, there's a 1 here. It would just be really nice if they were opposite in sign. One has to be positive and one has to be negative. It doesn't matter which one, okay? So what I'm going to do here is if I change the sign of this one, I have to change the sign of all. So I'm kind of being lazy here and I'm not even rewriting it. That way, gosh, I don't feel good today and I can't even draw a straight line. That way when I add straight down, notice a negative p plus a positive p, it's gone. It's eliminated. Now, when you add these two together, negative 1d plus 10d is 9d, and negative 25 plus 88 is what? 63. Divide both sides by 9. So I can see that d is 7. Now remember, d stands for the number of dimes. So how many dimes are there? There are 7 dimes. I'm using this to work. It says how many pennies are there? Well, goodness, if there's 7 dimes, go back and put it right here. and solve it. Remember you had this. This was one of our equations right here. And if there's 7 dimes, put a 7 in right there. Some of you can do this mentally. But you know how to solve for p. The opposite of adding 7 is subtracting 7. So p would have to be, what, 18? So there are 18 pennies. And that's how you do that one. And I about dropped my phone. I'm trying to look if they get any more difficult than that. The only one I can see that might cause you grief is because this one is more than $1. Okay, so let's do one more, and then I want you guys to work and get it done. Again, 2 equations over and over the game. There are 13 coins. I've only got quarters and dimes. So I've got quarters and dimes. So obviously Q is for my quarters, D is for how many dimes I have. That adds up to 13 coins. Quarters are worth 25 cents. Dimes are worth 10 cents. Now look, I didn't put any decimals in there, so I'm not going to put a decimal in here. So I'm going to have to set it equal to a 175. Okay, if you start putting decimals in, you can do that, but I don't like to have to work with decimals. So it's kind of like I'm multiplying everything by 100. Okay, now just because I haven't reviewed substitution, honestly, I would still use the elimination method. Since this is a positive 10, I honestly would multiply everything by a negative 10 and be done with it. But I'll have to get my calculator. What you want to do for the substitution method, oh look, I forgot to put a Q right there. Quarters are worth 25 cents. Glad I caught that. Let's go ahead and solve for D, which means I need to move this Q to the other side. I don't want you guys to forget the substitution method because there are times you're going to need it. So if this is a positive Q, when I move it to the other side, it becomes a minus Q. So I'm going to take what D equals, and I'm going to put it into the other equation right there where you see a D. So that's going to give me 25Q. And instead of a D, in parentheses, I'm going to put what D equals. And what was that? 175. So that 13 minus Q went right there. Everything else is the same. Okay? So I've got 25Q, 10 times 13, that's easy enough. 130 minus 10Q equals 175. 25Q minus 10Q is what? 15Q. Let's subtract 130 and move it to the other side. What's that give you? 45. Divide both sides by 15. So hopefully you can see Q is going to be 3. Now obviously all of these better come up to be nice answers. You're not going to get like 3.25 or something like that. We're talking about how many quarters you have. You're going to have 3 whole quarters. You're not going to have 3 and a fraction of another one, okay? Because then it wouldn't really add up to the money you have. Now this one says how many dimes there are. So make sure, where did it say quarters? How many quarters are there? There are 3 quarters. If there's 3 quarters, right here, 3 quarters, then hopefully you can see there has to be 10 dimes. Okay, it's that simple, but I want you guys to practice on it.